If you missed the big fights held over the weekend by Triller, allow me to quickly catch you up before we get into what Jake Paul did. In the main event, Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. ended in a draw, Snoop Dogg stole the show with his commentator skills, and Jake Paul by far had the fight of the night. But before we go any further, I need you all to tap that like button to show some love to the channel.
Like, for the past year, I'm taking this seriously. There's a long list of opponents that I want. You know, Conor McGregor, Dylan Dennis. I'm gonna knock them both out.
Yes, that's right, friends. Jake Paul has had 2 fights and he is feeling so good that he's willing to call out UFC legend Conor McGregor. Now, if we're talking purely boxing, Jake has won more fights. So if we're trying to understand the rationale behind this challenge, it most definitely stems from his recent boost in confidence. However, even before his fight with Nate Robinson, Jake was calling Conor out.
Oh my God, who the McGregor?
Yep.
Is he on that list you speak of?
100%. 100%. He's at the end of the list. He's my final victim.
Do you
He's
think
he's the boss at the end of the
And rightfully so, he referred to him as the final boss because Conor McGregor is without a doubt one of the greatest professional fighters of all time. Over the weekend, as I mentioned earlier, Jake Paul absolutely floored former NBA player Nate Robinson. This was the undercard for the Tyson-Roy Jones Jr. exhibition fight, but with so many rules put in place on the main card, people were excited about some of the other bouts. Namely, people wanted to see Nate Robinson finally put the problem child Jake Paul into his place. Unfortunately, it came down to a matter of who trained more, and without a doubt, Jake Paul appeared much more fluid in this fight. In his post-fight interview, he even mentioned how he had been training non-stop for the past year, and it showed. In the fight, Jake Paul put Nate Robinson on the mat 3 times and finally stopped him at the 1 minute 35 second mark of the second round in what was a scheduled 6-round cruiserweight bout. Robinson appeared nervous and overeager from the very beginning. He was constantly throwing out wild punches while also leaving his guard down, and on top of that, he attempted to wrestle Jake into a clinch that was held for far too long. Kinda looked like he was wrestling and didn't really look like a boxing match at many points of the fight. Overall, Nate Robinson's athleticism though could not save him from getting backed into a corner and fed a mean right hook for the finish. Jake on the other hand looked completely composed. He waited for openings and took advantage the moment that it was presented. That moment, as I mentioned, came in the second round when Robinson took a right punch to the forehead that put the 36-year-old flat on his face. He was able to get up from that initially, but the straw that broke the camel's back was that second right hook to the chin. The glass jaw hook, if you will. This put him back on his face once again, and thus referee Thomas Taylor stopped the fight, giving the victory to Jake Paul. Now, despite his recent success, it's very unlikely that Conor McGregor will actually accept the fight with Jake this early on in his fighting career. It's also probably wiser for Jake to wait a little bit longer before challenging a man like Conor, who is still in his prime fighting years. His most recent bout ended in just 40 seconds when he knocked out Cowboy Donald Cerrone last January before announcing his retirement from MMA for the 3rd time. Yes, 3 times he's announced retirement. I think he just does that so that the UFC locker room maybe takes a little bit of a break, calms down, alright, Conor's gone, because shortly thereafter, he confirmed he was fighting Dustin Poirier at UFC 257 on January 23rd. As for Jake Paul, if he begins fighting actual boxers and ends up winning, that could increase the possibility of him catching McGregor's eye. However, as of right now, I really doubt that McGregor will even acknowledge Jake Paul until he has some more wins under his belt. I also believe that this is a good path for Jake to head down. I mean, think about it. If he spends more time in the gym and training to be a boxer, that means less time will be spent disturbing the public or getting raided by the FBI. I'd rather see him turn into a boxer than continue to get attention on the internet for being a problem child. What would be smart for him to do though is avoid fighting more YouTubers. That really does nothing for his record. He could be 50-0, but if every opponent wasn't actually a professional boxer, then it doesn't really count. I believe these are great for exhibition type matches to get a crowd all hyped up and show off your skills, but to the world of boxing, this event was a bit of a joke. All in all, I hope that we get to see another Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. I hope Snoop Dogg gets a big fat check for being a fight commentator, and I hope that Jake Paul spends more time in the gym and less time getting himself in trouble. With that though, let's check out some of your comments from the video titled Johnny Depp is fired from Hollywood. Kieran Campion says, I totally understand why everyone hates Hollywood. Yeah, I get it now too. Sheriff112361 says, I'll never watch the rest of the series. Johnny is Grindelwald and he is innocent. Amber was the abuser. They will never get any more of my money. Sorry to the rest of the cast. Yeah, you know what? I honestly feel more sorry for everyone else that has to be involved with movies like Fantastic Beasts, even Aquaman 2, just because of 2 stars that had to bring their whole life into the public and now all of their jobs are at stake. LC says Fantastic Beasts without Johnny Depp is just a cheap knockoff. You know what? You're right. Rosie LeBau says, I'm going to boycott the movie, but that's my take on the situation. Hey, you're free to do whatever you want. Jacqueline Arthur says, well, this film will lose money as people who are true fans will boycott this film. I will boycott this film. Well, it looks like you're a true fan then. That's all I have for you guys today, though. My name has been Johnny Rogers, and until next time, stay classy.